right. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 10 of the cryptocurrency series. My name is Kim Schofield, and you all know me by now. And tonight we are going to have a guest speaker. And as always, I want you to put all of your questions into the chat below, please. We like lots of questions, and then we'll answer them during the talk or at the end of the talk, whatever works out to be the best way to do it for certain questions. So right now, I'm just going to do a bit of an introduction for what the talk will be about. And my friend Chris Roberts will be with us tonight. And he is just finishing one call, so he can jump into this one. So he will be here in a minute. So tonight, we are going to talk about online security. And we're going to talk about it from the point of view of cryptocurrency, but also from the point of view of non-cryptocurrency, because of course all of your cryptocurrency entities or wallets and other things are of course on your devices. So they're on your laptop or your phone or USB keys or wherever you've chosen to keep the various pieces. So we are going tonight to talk about cryptocurrency wallets. There are hot wallets and cold wallets, of course. We're going to talk about the basics of social engineering, which is how cyber criminals can get into our online lives by simply tapping into those things that make us human. The willingness to click on an email, to believe that somebody is actually who they say they are. And then we'll talk about how to actually use those tendencies we have as human beings to turn that around and reverse engineer what the cyber criminals are attempting to do and kind of beat them at their own game. As we do that, then we'll talk about the online security, the social engineering. Then we're going to talk a bit about NFTs. And we had Tyrone Webb was with us a couple of weeks ago. We had a nice talk and a walk through his gallery. And so, of course, when you have an NFT asset, which is becoming much bigger in the crypto world these days, you now have an asset that you need to protect. So if you have a portrait, for example, that you would buy from Tyrone's gallery, you may have the original in your home on your wall, and then you will have a digital copy as well. And that digital copy, of course, is worth money. It's worth what you paid for it. And so there are concerns, depending on the amount, the bigger concerns about how you ensure these possessions, how you safeguard them, and how you keep them safe on your devices. So we will talk about that as well. And we'll talk a bit about privacy versus anonymity, which talks about the blockchain and how the blockchain might not have your name and your physical address and your name, but by tracing things like IP addresses and things like that, we can tell, or not we, but it is possible to tell where money is being spent, for instance, on a very expensive painting or other NFT collectible. It is possible with certain blockchains to start tracking spending habits, and then on top of that, of course, track personal habits when that IP address is used and when it's just dead for hours at a time, which would tell us when people are home and when they are not home. And so there are ways to safeguard yourself for that as well, just like not telling everyone when you're on vacation or making sure that your house looks lived in. We want to make sure that that we can tell. So hold on one sec here. So we want to make sure that we can tell what's going on. And by doing that, certain blockchains, certain ways of doing things give us a little more anonymity. If we're spending big money on collectibles and things like that, we might be on somebody's radar. So we're going to talk about that. And there's a growing list of cybersecurity and crypto-specific scams that are out there that people need to be aware of. If people are getting into mining, for instance, then there are mining scams, of course. So downloading a mining platform, interacting with a group of community of miners, we do have to be very aware of what we're doing and who's behind it, who's backing it, who the founders are, how it's run, And we have to be very aware of where malware could be. Much as when we have, say, Microsoft 365 as an email address, then as a business person, it's prudent to keep up on what's happening with Microsoft 365. Have there been any breaches? Have there been malware scams? What's going on that you need to be aware of? And when we're dealing with cryptocurrency, the same is really true there. So we need to be aware of what is happening in that world. So what is happening in the cryptocurrency world of miners or cryptocurrency exchanges, or even people getting into your email with cryptocurrency email, newsletters and cryptocurrency things for you to, NFTs for you to buy, or other, interesting kind of things. And of course, when one thing gets big, other things get big as well. So that's one thing that we really just need to be aware of. So one sec, I'm just checking here. All right. Sorry. So as we do that, if you have any questions, I'm not sure if people are interested in cryptocurrency mining in particular, then you can ask questions about that. The whole idea of privacy versus anonymity and being able to track where you are, then we get into things like smart houses or smart homes, and we're talking about things like Alexa or your fridge, your microwave, your stereo, whatever it is that you can give commands to that can now, you're talking to it. And now those are entities that can, for one, have malware in them, that can, two, relay information back and forth to people who might not have your best interest at heart. And three, they can definitely be an avenue for cyber criminals into your life and into your world. Okay, so there's the two of us, no problem. And so let's just introduce you. This is Chris Roberts, of course, and I sent some information in today's newsletter to let you know. I sent them your information from the Hillbilly Hit Squad website and your LinkedIn profile, stuff like that, so they could get to know you a little bit. Didn't manage to get a shot of the kilt, but we definitely have the beard. So let's get started. Where would you like to start? We want to talk about cryptocurrency, and we want to talk about online security for cryptocurrency, which of course branches out into online security in general, because we keep all these things on our devices. And I was thinking we could start with something fairly easy, like the online wallets or wallets, hot wallets, cold wallets, what the difference would be, and perhaps the difference in security from your point of view. So how would people start to keep these things safe once they're doing it?
It's a tough one, because I think there's so much advice out there and there's so many different ways that people look at these things. Probably the biggest and the biggest attack vector, or one of the biggest attack vectors for us, is the one that you hit first, which is the wallet side of things.
Right.
So, let's start with the easy one, which is, if you think of a wallet in the same way that you think of your normal wallet or purse. So typically your wallet or purse that you have in the physical world is rarely outside of your view. You tend to know where it is. If it's in the car, you know where it is. If it's in your hand or in your pocket, you know which pocket. Some of us chain the damn things to our pockets. Some folks have them in handbags, carry purses, snatch purses. Yeah. Even in the house, I know where the bloody thing is. And I've got little RFID tag in mine, so I really know where the hell mine is. And I know if somebody wanders off with the stupid thing. Whereas in the digital world, because it's not tangible, because we haven't maybe taken the time to think of the digital in the same way we think of the physical, we tend to unfortunately leave those wallets on our computers on that time. We have them on the phones, and our phone is secured by a passcode that's about the same one as the White House, which was 1211111. Well done, boys. Right. Or whatever it is, we don't think about this and go, hey, I need to protect this, control it, maintain it, and manage it in the same way I do my physical wallet. So they call them hot and cold wallets. It actually drives me nuts. Think of it just as a wallet that's on the computer and a wallet that's in the safe. And obviously the logic is, with a hot wallet, is it's always attached. It is on that active computer, or that telephone, or even that secondary phone. For a lot of people who are in like the gaming industry and who do online betting, many of them actually have many of them have a secondary or tertiary phone that they use for that. So you've got your crypto phone, and as much as you like to think it's secure and you think it's safe, well, it isn't. There's next to nothing in that digital phone that we can't get into. And then when you think about computers, I mean, they're even more bloody vulnerable. And I don't care which operating system you want to use. I don't care which home firewall you're sitting behind. The chances are it's not necessarily going to be as well protected as you feel it might be or you want it to be. So this is where we always say to people, hey, look, you've got a decent amount in there. Do I mind turning on my camera? I would love to, but I can't because I don't have that ability to do it. Sorry, just changing the subject.
Oh, okay. Do I have to
Yeah,
give you that, or is it on
you
your
do.
end?
Yeah. I don't have
My
one.
apology. I promoted
That's
you
okay. I don't care. You do.
panelist, and
The host would like to promote me to be a panelist. Woo.
woohoo. Does that help you with your camera?
Unable. What the hell? Oh, you've stopped me from starting my camera.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Okay, can we talk about Zoom after all of this?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I am actually trying to type, like, click on your little camera thing so you can have a camera, chat, make host. I'm going to make you a co-host. How's that? That should be
Uh-oh.
fun.
Scary stuff. Don't do it. Don't do it. No way.
All right. Does that mean there you
Aha.
go?
There we go. There you got the hairy, large, hairy thing.
And now you have access to everything.
Now you can
Which
see
you
the
did anyway, if we're being honest about cybersecurity.
You got a nice civilized background. Yours at least looks nice and civilized. Now we see the pink. It's kind of red, pink. It actually won't pink. We have the Pink Mist Club, but that's an entirely separate conversation. So yeah, the hot and cold wallet shenanigans. It's I mean, obviously the logic is whenever you do a transaction, you take your USB drive and you plug it into the computer, you validate it, you trust it, you validate it, you trust it again, and then you can conduct business. And then as soon as you're done, you shut it all down, unplug the stupid thing, and preferably put it somewhere where you can remember where it is. PS, after doing a backup of the bloody thing.
Right. So there's a checklist you need to kind of paste on your
phone.
Oh,
I mean, and I think this is where it gets so hard, because we've made these things, these are the worst things invented in mankind's memory. Let's be perfectly honest. We make those so easy. We make them so accessible, so friendly. And yet we don't help people understand how to manage the safety and security around them.
True.
We don't take time to go, when you give this to your kid, you've given them basically a device that can do everything from entertain them for a few hours to unfortunately expose them to 5.5 other billion people who are connected on this planet, of which about 4 billion of them I'd rather not deal with on this planet.
Yes,
so
true.
Yeah, the hot cold wallet thing is good. I mean, for anybody that's got anything of any substance. And the other problem is, as well, is obviously when you create your wallet, depending upon whose wallet you've gone with, whose tech you've gone with, it, where you're doing with it, you will have a set of recovery keys.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we dealt with
Yeah, they're not kidding about these. Are yours the only?
Oh yeah, you're screwed. Yeah, you lose those, you're up shit creek without a paddle. We actually had a client, unfortunately, who was targeted out of the country. They were out of the country. They were targeted. They had their physical key. They had their physical phone that was left, but somebody stole their recovery key. So they didn't touch the active phone that had the wallet on it. They stole their recovery key out of a hotel safe.
Oh.
Yep. And then while this individual was out doing what they were doing, they went online, did the recovery key, did everything they needed to do, and just took over the entire wallet.
And that's something you wouldn't even think of, putting it in.
And at the time, it was an 8.5 million, the equivalent of about $8.5 million US between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yeah. So we went physical on that one. We didn't stay in the digital realm. We we ended up taking over surveillance cameras in the hotel, taking over the street cameras, and then we sent a team out to go introduce themselves to a couple of individuals.
Ah, so old school.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was old school. This was, and because I mean they'd gone old school, so we're like, yeah, tit for tat on this one.
And that's the way it goes, though. If you're talking cybersecurity world, your hands are tied. Or if you're talking online world, where are you going to go if they've taken the money and they have the keys and you're just done? What you can do is find them, like literally.
That's potentially, yeah. And the nice thing about it is the upside of the digital currency is you can go to a ledger, you can go and see where that wallet is, if it's been used before, what the history of it. To some degree, you can do a little bit of other research on it. There are a few folks and individuals who have access to do that. You can also track back particularly where the transactions appeared, where they came from. If you know the networks, you can do all sorts of interesting stuff to try to pin down what happened. And it's part of the reason why when people pay ransomware with cryptocurrency, that we sometimes have the ability to go knock on people's doors and go, hi, we know they were idiots for not securing themselves, but that doesn't give you the right to let's have this conversation.
Yes, and I had talked about that a bit before you had come on to the difference between privacy and anonymity, and privacy being your name isn't visible on a blockchain, but patterns and IP addresses and traffic and so many things. Well, it's taken down many things that way. So many ways to find you if you are doing these kinds of nefarious things.
So many ways, and I think people forget that. Again, it's probably years gone by. So when we first had the Tor Onion, when we were first really starting to use the Tor and Onion networks,
yes,
for that level of anonymity, it really kind of was the Wild Wild West. But I mean, a number of us own quite a number of those entry and exit nodes, so we know where you're coming from and we kind of know where you're going to. And we also own some of the step nodes, so we also have a pretty good idea of what you're up to some degree. And there's always a bit of a fun game between ourselves and one of the agencies. And the particular agency and I probably own about 300 or 400 entry, exit, and other nodes on that network a piece.
Right. Okay.
So, if we have to piece together what's going on in that world, we can at least put half the jigsaw together, enough that we can start asking awkward questions. And then really it's old school tactics. And this, unfortunately, this is where this comes into play. And, for anybody that's listening in on this, we're not just going to go digital on you. We're going to go old school. We as humans, unfortunately, spread ourselves all over the internet.
Yes.
And so if I know where your kids are, I know where they go to school, I know what cars, I know your general house, I know where you live, I know any one of that piece or little tendril that I can pull on, then what else can I find out? How can I do the social engineering and all these other kind of good things? So that's where it gets really, really interesting on that one. Because I think a lot of folks tend to forget that, unfortunately, either we put ourselves on the internet or those around us put us on the internet.
And that's the big thing, those around us. And it's old school. It's when you go on vacation, do you make sure your house looks lived in? Are you making sure that these patterns are not visible and to the outside world when you're making transactions, when you're doing things like this? So there are levels of security that you need to have if you're dealing with big amounts of money that are going to get somebody's attention. Then you need to deal with they tell who you are, where you are. Like, are they going to be able to figure this out? Because they're going to try pretty damn hard if there's enough money at stake to figure
absolutely. I mean, somebody hit me up. Perfect example. Last week I posted a picture, one of the very few pictures I've ever posted of my daughter online, and I got her permission. She just turned 18, and so we were out of Florida. We were down at Disney. I put a picture of her and I online, me with crazy beard and her, looking like my daughter and that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, somebody put a nice but sarcastic comment like, oh, we wouldn't expect a hacker to put a picture of, where they are. I'm like, hey, you are welcome to go to the house. Please feel free. First and foremost, there's other people in the house and most of them are armed. And secondly, there's 3 dogs, of which the lightest one is now 120-pound puppy and the heaviest is almost 200-pound.
I know.
And they are willing to do something. And thirdly, there's booby traps. So enjoy.
I remember.
Bring a bucket and we'll scoop what's left of you into there. And they're like, oh, I'm like, seriously,
Go after people for stuff like that online. Obviously, you're smart enough that if you took that one time to put a picture, because we both know we don't have pictures of where we are. This is not where I am.
right.
And we don't have pictures at the time of where we are. And we keep a lot of things to ourselves for a reason. And if
Mhm.
you have made sure that everything is in place so you could share this, it was a beautiful picture of your daughter. And obviously, we go to some trouble before we do something like that. So give us some credit.
Absolutely. And we have to for our varieties. It's actually, Charlene asked a really, really good question, which is, what percentage of humans understand the risks? Unfortunately, it's low, 5% maybe 10% if we're lucky. Um,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because again, it's digital. But
Yep.
think about when you were growing up as a kid, and I always tend to use this example. It's fairly useful. It's like when you're growing up as a kid and your guardian, you're in the kitchen, and you're able to now reach everything. You've gotten to that point where you can reach things. Your parent or guardian says, "Hey, don't touch the kettle and don't touch the stove. They're hot."
Yes.
What did? We touched the stupid things and we burnt ourselves. We learned through experience.
Yes.
And it's
Absolutely.
the same now. And other things as we got older, in the UK, we learned the Green Cross code, look left, look right, cross the road kind of shenanigans. Or in this country, it's whatever it is. Look,
Yeah. Yeah. I still get that wrong and do it my way.
yeah, I'm just going to look both ways, cross my fingers and just go. I'm going to play Frogger if I really have to. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
But it's very, very, because we get that tactile feedback, we have I remember as a kid watching those bloody videos. I will never forget the videos that talked about electricity, that talked about like the dangers of railway lines, that talked about the farms, the dangers of farming and how you can drown in a cesspool of poo, and that's
Notes,
stuck with
but
me.
good.
Yeah, I mean, that's stuck with me. But
Yes.
we didn't, number one, we didn't learn about the digital era, and there's very little that shows us even these days. And number two, it's not a physical feedback to most degree. We are at a point where we can now kill people with these things,
Yes. People
but
want to hear that.
haven't we haven't really we haven't shown somebody getting blown up because I've hacked their cell phone. You show that a few times on YouTube and people might start thinking twice about giving these to their kids.
Yes. But we don't. They're toys to the kids, or they're just these non-entities, or to us when we give them to the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're
So, and I
not.
think that's part of the problem. We've been encouraged to embrace these. We've been encouraged to put Alexas and Rings and all sorts of things in our homes, and we've been told that they're going to help us and they're great for us and they're fun and they're amazing and all these other wonderful things.
Yeah.
But what we've not been told and what we've not had experience of is the negative consequences. Yes, we've lost our credit cards. Well, the bank sends me another one. Yay!
Yay. Yep.
Yeah,
And
lost
we
my
haven't.
social security number. So now I put a PIN number in when I file my taxes and all that stuff. But it's not tactile enough that we as humans learn.
Yeah, and we're and it needs to go deeper, like you're saying, so much deeper. When if you are somebody buying things online or you have money going back and forth, anything that makes a cyber criminal now take note of you, it's not just your activity. It's what your kids are posting about where they go to school. It's what people are posting about where they had lunch, where they had this, where they do that. We know when you're home and when you're not to a great degree in ways that people just don't think about. There's Google Map histories. I mean, I religiously shut all of that off, but does everybody religiously, after every update, shut all that off and erase the history? Do you want to know where people have been or gone? It's all there in Google Maps and all the
There's so
tracking.
much of it. And we talk about social engineering, we talk about the humans, and as an organizations, we take people through training, but we unfortunately we don't do it often enough. So, once a year, unfortunately, or once a quarter, you get told, don't click on this and don't send it. Well, we remember it for what, 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour if you're lucky.
Yeah.
What we need to do is literally take all of anybody that works with us or for us and take them aside and go, congratulations, this is a weapon.
Thank you.
Let me do. I mean, I there's pictures of me on the internet, literally, holding that up and literally saying which one's more dangerous.
Yeah.
And honestly, this one.
You can't see that one coming all the time. Yep.
And I can get you from halfway across the world.
Yes, absolutely.
That beastie, I've got a finite range and I've got a finite capacity to reload the darn thing.
Yes, and I think that's a really good analogy, actually. So that all of this is all of this social engineering that I was trying to give people some hope for before you came on, telling them we can reverse engineer some of that, which is what you and I talk about. Everything we're telling people to do is reverse engineering the social engineering that cyber criminals use to get at us. Make sure that you understand. Do they even know what an end node is? If you don't understand what an end node is, then you don't understand, how much privacy you've got. Maybe you use Tor, maybe you use a VPN, but when that signal goes past the end of where you are, and it has to hit an end node and then go out into the real world.
Yep.
And who owns that, and who's tracking and tracing that activity, and it's deep.
It's like the old telco. It's like the old telco days. The old telco days, we were always limited by the last mile.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. It's no different in this world. It's no different in the digital world we occupy. It's ironic, if I'm searching for something on the internet in one of the other rooms or something else that's going on, somebody suddenly says, "Hey, are you looking at more watches?" And I'm like, maybe.
Maybe.
And they're like, "Well, we're now getting more ads on, freaking Facebook or whatever watches." And I'm like, "Yep, that'll be the one," because the internet service provider goes, "Well, they're looking for watches," and sends it off to Facebook, and Facebook goes, "Well, we're going to send them more ads for watches," or whatever the hell it might be.
Yes. And it happens all the time. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And it's tough because, again, it's a balance. Again, Charlene asked another really good question, and it's a balance. There are some things I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to accept that I will use a VPN, a virtual private network. I will basically plug my computer into a coffee shop or a hotel, or when I was out in Florida, the House of Mouse. I'll plug my computer into that open network, but I will make sure that as I do it, I open up a virtual private network between myself and whatever I'm doing. So at least everything I have, it would take somebody a lot of work to get closer to me.
Yes. So there's a limit to what we can do, depending on how much effort we want to put out. You're right. So we protect the core, then we protect in kind of these series of.
It's the same thing. I mean, this is a perfect idea. This is why we're talking about wallets and stuff like that. Charlene says some more practical ideas. To me, it's what's important to you. What's important to me is my physical wallet or several other things that I have.
Yes.
Do I know where they are? And it's the same thing with assets. We all realize that we have stuff everywhere. So what is important to me, and where is it, and what have I done to protect it? And am I asking enough questions?
Yes.
When you turn around and say, "Hey, I can do this for you." Well, do I trust and verify, or do I verify first by asking a bunch of questions, by doing a bunch of research, by maybe calling up the very number you think you're coming from, and I verify, and then maybe I'll trust you for 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then we're going to go through another bit more verification.
Yes, because it's about you, but it's also about who you are connected to on the outside and who they are connected to on the outside. And we've all had, Facebook things go through in years past where it came from person after person after person and then goes through everybody's contact list.
Perfect example. Again, to Charlene's things is when something is presented to you, do you question it or do you accept it? And the perfect one is the scam. It's you get a message from your cousin Frida is stuck in London because she's lost her wallet, she has no money, and somebody nice passerby let her have access to a telephone so that she could call you and ask you for $200 in gift cards.
Right.
Okay, great. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna send it. No. I have to pick up the fucking telephone to cousin Frida and go, "Hey, is your mumpty ass sitting in the middle of London, or did you just get your email breached?" Or call the parent, or call the friend, or there's so many ways that or when the director of the FBI calls up and goes, "Well, I need you for a secret mission, and that secret mission involves you spending $1,000 on gift cards for me because it's ultra secret against the Russians," and you're like, "Well, I will do my patriotic duty." No, The
And
director of the fucking FBI isn't going to call your numpty sorry ass up, for God's sakes. They have people. Yeah.
and as ridiculous as these sound, they're true. These are real life examples, and we have so many of them. And I did see your post today, which I would love to put all over the internet. I missed it. It was 2 weeks ago. Okay, I gotta say.
Oh,
But oh, the
the dating post.
CISSP, yeah, the CISSP. But it outlines a whole bunch of things that. Sorry, that one was about more about women, but the one you did today or yesterday about think about it before you do it, because
Oh yeah,
all the
totally.
stuff we
Yeah.
are trying to do, try to appreciate the layers we're trying to put between you and the bad guys. And please, what we're asking you to do is nothing compared to what we're doing to make sure that these things we're asking you to do are not enough, but almost enough, or sort of enough, or much closer to enough. So
Yeah,
that kind of respect.
it really is. It honestly, and it's tough because there's no one. Again, Charlene's comment. There is no one simple answer, unfortunately, and there
Yeah.
definitely is no one technology answer. There are things in technology that will help you reduce the risk, the crazy stuff we're messing around with.
Yes.
But there's definitely things that will help you understand risk and reduce risk. There's nothing that's going to take that risk away. And more often than not, it's really is just asking more questions. If there's one thing I want humans to do, it's question more, believe less.
Can we do that? That's the reverse engineering that I keep hoping will happen, which is
No, no,
no.
we can't.
But we
We
don't want,
can't because we haven't killed enough people.
and that is the sad truth. And
Yeah,
it's really a sad truth, but it is a very real truth.
yeah,
People get hurt and hurt and hurt and hurt. And there's a balance between keeping our humanity, but saying, I'm going to keep my humanity and care that you're stuck in London if I indeed know that you are stuck in London, because we know that it's the first world in London. You're not usually stuck on the street. There's places you can go, and you can use a phone.
yeah.
You can have somebody call you back. You can, it's not, I borrowed a phone from somebody on the street. So it's more a filtering process. Keep our humanity. That's vitally important, especially in today's times. But find a way to keep your humanity and say, I do care about you. This is, of course, will help you. First, I'm going to make sure that it's you. And I'm noticing people are having to be guarded in ways that are increasing their stress to a great degree. But as we get used to it, maybe the stress goes down. Even my parents are getting to, cyber criminals have gone back to using the phone because they've got, they're not getting what they want on the internet. So now they're learning, and they're picking up on it quite quick because it's starting to really tick them off. And there's no safe place anymore. There's no place where we can just relax.
That's the problem with, I mean, there's apps for your telephone
Yep.
which now allow you to mimic another voice. And I mean, they're cool and they're fun and they are as dangerous as hell.
Yes. And they're
Um,
used all the time for stuff like
yeah,
this.
I mean, we saw it, the Queen's speech. So this past year, BBC, good old BBC One, BBC Two, did the Queen's speech for Christmas. Well, I think it was ITV or Channel 4, I don't remember which one it was, did a fake news Queen's speech. And I mean, they deep fake Queen's speech. And
Yep.
ooh, that was
It,
good. I mean, it got them. There were a lot of people that were really pissed off at them. I'm like, and you're pissed off at the wrong people. They have just opened your eyes to exactly what is possible.
and that is what you should focus on. Is there was a reason. We know we have to do things that get the
Yeah.
biggest impact, and the biggest impact make people angry or scared. The biggest impact,
Yes.
it doesn't make them happy. So we want to make sure that those changing technologies, those are being used. Of course, somebody wants money from you, and what do? You phone, or they phone you. And now, if it's worth the while of the cyber scammers, they now sound like you. Or and that
Especially for this
happens.
one. I mean, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, you look at, and what's interesting is we're not just talking about digital currency. We've had this conversation offline where we're talking about artwork. The
Yes.
whole concept now of digital artwork that exists in the digital world, yet has a physical value or physical/digital value.
Yes.
I mean, that's huge. So we are, I mean, we go back to, you go to a place now where we are integrating more and more of what we feel as physical assets into a more digital world. And the problem is, I mean, this is gray when it's not colored, let's face it, is we've come up through that era where we kind of understand it and we're kind of okay with it. But you look at anybody that's much older than us, who have a shit ton load of potential disposable income, and even people of our age and
Yes.
even younger that maybe don't understand what they're getting into. And all of a sudden, you have an entire pool of individuals, people, groups, and teams, and funding opportunities that an adversary can very, very easily take advantage of, unfortunately, without much in ways of repercussions.
Yes, and that's another thing. There's two really good points in there. One is people don't realize the repercussions are low. If somebody is going to take your money digitally, there's very little you or I can do to get that back, unless we can get boots on the ground like you did in London. Um, you can't. It's gone. Cyber crime is they turn off the node. That's it. They're done. And a lot of those teams that you're talking about, because they are where they are in their cybersecurity sophistication, they don't know where to go, and they don't know that they don't know, and they so even their contacts with their networks are about at the same level. So it's harder to even say, well, if this was a problem, like who would I trust to fix it at that point? And that's what we need to be doing preventatively. Um,
I
so
just I hit Charlene's other question, which is the owners and CEOs and politicians understand the risk. And actually, I can really answer this one because I had a conversation. A particularly well-known party in the continental United States of America that maybe got themselves breached a couple of years ago is actually looking for a CISO, and I actually had a talk with them today.
ah,
And a really good conversation up until the point when we talked about remuneration and compensation, and at which point it just kind of fell off the edge of the cliff because they're actually paying their maximum salary is actually less than you would get as a lead pen tester, and they want to see so in that role.
oh
Uh,
wow, and
and they are looking for somebody who is mission before money, and I get it. I mean, I totally understand that, but that is a very, very different set of conversations. And so I would say in most cases they don't get it. The CEO thing is a rough one because even in our industry, a very good friend of mine, Ryan Clutter and Evan Frankel, did a good study, and the study was, I think it was like 55% of CEOs basically don't want to deal with the risk of cybersecurity. They're willing to accept the risk.
right.
They're willing as a business to just pay the cyber liability insurance, and they're willing to just not have to deal with it, which is, it's sad because you don't always then understand the consequences, let alone if I hand you my data, I'm looking at you going, hey, you're now responsible for my data. And if honestly your level of responsibility is insurance will pay out, then well, that sucks. That really
Thank
sucks.
you. Yes, and that I don't know about you, but I've been very open about the fact that's why I don't do those roles anymore because I got tired of. Well, we're just going to do that. Well, number one, cyber insurance isn't going to pay out if you're not following any kind of protocol, and two, you're handling people's data, and that's what you care about. Is well, it's okay that they'll pay out, and you don't care, and you're giving out passwords to everybody, and you've got so many admin level, executive level passwords because oh my god, if you take my password away, it means you don't trust me. I've been here since the company opened. All that kind of garbage,
Well,
and
and,
I
and
got
and
fed
then
up.
you end up with them, well, actually anybody, and again, this is the challenge, and it's a huge challenge, especially in a male-dominated environment,
Yeah.
because it's the, well, I'm bigger. No, it's two things. It's one, I'm invulnerable, da, 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 and I'm bigger and better than you, and you can't tell me what to do. That shit. Whereas at least in a matriarchal environment, you tend to have that more caring, that more feeling, that more, hey, I'm going to listen to you.
Yes.
I might still make the same decision, but at least I'm going to give you that time of day to have that conversation. Whereas in typically in a much more male dominated, and it is, I'll go toe to toe with anybody that argues on this one.
I would
And a
agree.
male is like, well, I'm fine, and how dare you insult my manhood and my big swinging one that tells me everything is perfect. No, sorry, little buddy, you're screwed. Welcome to my world.
Yes, and for everybody who's wondering, Chris and I have these conversations a lot. And we agree on all of them, and you're right, not everybody falls into each category, but it is the experience of both of us. I always, and I'm very open about that. It's always a measuring contest. I don't have anything to measure. Therefore, sit down and shut up and let
Yeah,
do this the right way. And
just just drives me nuts. I again, back to killing people. I hate to say it, we almost need to take that entire layer of senior leadership and just and cull them. Make them go
although,
away.
can we do that legally? We should think on that.
Yes, I probably we can. It's a liability conversation at that point. I'm sorry. You're the head of the organization. You are old school, but you are actually ignoring risk. Therefore, I'm sorry. Would you mind stepping this way for a moment?
Logan's Run. We can have a Logan's Run.
Well, actually, honestly, this is where, I got to be honest, this is where I like the Chinese for this one. This is where I have a bit of a soft spot for just this little piece of it, which is, hi, Colonial Pipeline, perfect example. In China, if Colonial Pipeline's senior leadership had actually ignored the pen tests and the assessments for the last several years and had been embarrassed to such an extent that they were embarrassed, a little black van would have turned up, little men would have gotten out of the little black van, hauled off the senior leadership, and they would never have been heard from again.
Yes. And for
I
anybody,
like that.
I like that too. I think there's accountability that needs to happen. And for anybody who needs some background on that, Chris and I talked about that on, oh, we didn't, but you were talking about it on your CISO show, I think, one time.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. We ran to. Oh, I was not a happy bunny with that because all that happened is Colonial Pipeline senior leadership went before Congress and went, "I'm so sorry. The bad people are really bad, and we should." No, get your ass out on the front lawn and get tasered.
yes. And what we're talking about is, as for per Charlene's question, the responsibility that comes with leadership in a company. If you are a CEO, if you are in the C-suite, legally, you have these responsibilities. Legally, in his contract, that man should have, I'm assuming, in any contract I've ever seen, should have been punished, let go, fired, penalized, fined, whatever it is. But in reality, they do exactly what he did. He went in front of Congress and went, "Ah, it's not my fault." Absolutely, it was his freaking fault.
Right.
There were
Exactly.
things that
And
he didn't do
yeah.
that he should have done, and it happens everywhere.
And it's tough because inside our own security industry, we we muddy the waters. I think that's also part of the problem.
Yes.
Number one, we're not very effective at communication.
Yes. No,
We
that's
haven't been good at collaboration. And when it comes to helping a business understand risk, when it comes to an individual, perfect examples that we're seeing here, when it comes to having the conversations about, well, what is risk?
yes.
We get up in the morning, that's acceptable risk. Well, maybe not for some people, depends upon the day. I get in front of the computer, I accept certain risks, but
Yes.
I also do what I can to mitigate those risks.
That's where people fall down, I think.
Yeah.
They assume they don't mitigate, and
Yeah.
they assume that the government's taking care of it, that the laws, the rules, the regulations are taking care of it. Nothing's changed. This is digital. It used to be the Wild West. It used to be, there's always been rules and regulations and laws, and criminals have always got around them, and we can't assume it's any different in this case. So, yeah, and I don't know what time you have to jump off if you have a call. I thought,
I'll have to jump off at the top of the hour, definitely.
okay, so we probably should cover a couple of things from this. So a hot wallet, a cold wallet,
Yeah.
those simply means an online wallet, a non-online wallet that
Yep.
we have to look at. And there's different ways to secure that. Like you said, don't take screenshots of your seed phrases, because we know those get those get grabbed by God knows how many kind of apps and platforms. So you want to find a way to actually get a pen. You have to go old school, take it,
Old
laminate it,
school.
put it in your wallet, whatever it is, your safety deposit box at the bank, not a hotel safe. And we have to do that. And yes, oh my God, because hotel safes get broken into more than anybody would ever like to
They're
think
easy.
about.
There's ways there's YouTube channels dedicated to this stuff. I mean, we
Certainly.
run courses on it, for goodness sakes, at DEF CON, how to break into safes.
Yes, and it's not all that hard. So they pick and choose. An employee picks and chooses, or somebody they only take the big money. Then we're talking about NFTs and things. Now people need to learn to secure something that is expensive and wholly encased in the digital world. So there's a new kind of insurance you need and a new kind of protection you need. Now I think people need to start looking at this, making this bubble bigger. Like you said, you and I set up in a hotel. We've got our VPNs, we've got our hardline, whatever we want, whatever we can get at, and we're satisfied that our stuff is safe. And then how far we go out from the computer to the hotel security, from the hotel security out, how many layers do we need depending on what we're doing. Now we need to start looking at making sure that things like when you like our patterns, our travel patterns aren't as noticeable, but our online security patterns aren't as
I
noticeable.
think it also comes down to some simple stuff. I mean, this computer in front of me here is patched. It's patched concisely, precisely on time. It
Yes.
has not just, I mean, it's an Apple Mac and it has an antivirus and an anti-heuristic program. I use Bitdefender. I like Bitdefender. It's good. So it has that. It's backed up. It's backed up to Backblaze.
Yes.
Backblaze allows me to choose my own cryptography and my own key to back up my data. Nobody else has access to it. So if the worst case scenario, this gets stolen or taken or anything else, number one, the hard drive is obviously encrypted. It comes with the operating system, same with Windows does, and Linux to some degree. So it's just doing some simple stuff. When Apple says, hey, we're releasing patches, or when the little red light comes on here and says, hey, you've got a new update, then update the fucking thing.
Yes.
Because it means that Apple's spent some time after they validated, after they trusted, after somebody did some research, after they found it in the wild, to release a patch. The longer you wait, the better chance you have of risk. So there's just some simple things. Two-factor, multi-factor, just something other than a bloody password. And that same password you use to secure your wallet, don't use the same damn password on Facebook, for crying out loud. Don't even use a similar style. Use passphrases and some very, very simple, easy to do things that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yes.
That we tend to forget because we chase technology and go, oh, this widget will protect me. No,
Well, and widgets get hacked just like, or widgets get broken into just like they get breached like everything else. And so, yes, you're right. And please, God, more than just a password, some form of multi-factor, two-factor authentication. So that, and Gabriel did that great post a while ago, and I've saved it so I can show it to people where it's that somebody showing you how it's just a little cell phone, how easy it is for me to get into your account. And if you don't have two-factor authentication, so you don't have to send a little code to my phone if I want to get into my account, all I have to do is then hack your password, right? And then you're done. And I go in and I put on the two-factor authentication, which means next time you go in to change your password, they phone me.
yeah, which is, I mean, that's when it gets really nasty, because now you got to unpick that. And if you've got the same password in somewhere else, you've got all these other, and this is one of the challenges. A perfect example was when FaceSpace went down, was it last week before last?
Yes.
And took like a third of the internet down with it. And all of a sudden, people that used that as their single sign-on for everything else suddenly went, oh, panic.
Yep.
I'm waiting for Google to go down. I just want Google to go down for like 10 minutes. And like half the internet can't log into anything else. I'm like, yes.
And the rest of us will just move to the other browser. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But like,
because we backed everything up and we know where our passwords are and we have multi-factor authentication, because nothing is for certain, nothing is sure, nothing is certain, and nothing is set in stone. So,
and that's not hard to do. I think this is where it gets really frustrating. And yes, you know what? I'm sorry. You're going to get text messages on your phone or on a device or something where you have to do something. But that inconvenience of 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, is going to save you days and days and days of heartache and hassle and aggro and loss and recovery and me. You don't want the 6'3" hairy guy to be on the other end of the phone line at 3 o'clock in the morning calling your sorry ass a numpty because you couldn't be bothered to put something in place.
yes, absolutely. And I've tried to, as I tell people, this used to be an annoyance when it first came out. I'm like, oh, really? How bad can it be? Years back. Now I try to feel grateful every time I have to go, where the hell's my phone? Or did I charge my phone? Now I have to send it to email. Be grateful, because this is now your lifeline between what the cyber criminals have figured out. And they'll figure out the next thing and the next thing. And we always have to stay one step ahead, and life's never changed. And that's always been the way. Make it not worth their while. And
I think that's the big one on that one is, unfortunately, and this is a really good point to your point, unfortunately, this is a journey. There, as far as we can tell at the moment, is no end. I mean, whatever we do, it's a game of chess. I mean, in there, this is a game of chess. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is the our opposition is very, very skilled. And we are literally sitting there with a book going, well, they made that move. Oh, shit. Okay, well, our counter to that is this one. Now, if they made that move, what other 7 moves are they thinking about?
Yes.
And I think that's where it comes in. I mean, I play chess, and I think I'm normally like 5 to 7 moves ahead normally where I'm thinking, where I'm playing.
Right.
And it's really interesting playing somebody who's the same, because we'll typically play a verbal game and then we'll play the physical game. Whereas if I'm playing somebody who isn't like that, then it's a very, very different style. So if you have a matched opponent, it's actually more interesting. If it's not matched, it's a freaking steamroller, let's face it.
That's true. And I play Go. So I would
Yeah.
say rather I'll take you all out of the knees rather than take out the big guy. Just take out the bad army at the knees and
Oh, I mean, and that's I think the challenge as
strategies.
well is there's so much money in it. And that's the other part on this one is this is no longer the kids in the basement or the 1 or 2 criminals. It's enterprise. This is a multi-billion
Ransomware.
dollar enterprise.
Ransomware's on the internet. Ransomware as a service. Ransomware.
Yeah,
Oh my
totally,
goodness.
yeah. Yeah, you don't even have to be skilled. You don't have to be a skilled adversary or a skilled attacker or a skilled criminal. You can go buy. I mean, it's like renting a robber. It's like, hello, I'd like to rob the bank. Could I actually borrow you for the next 4 hours, please?
They made it that easy. They did.
Yeah, yeah,
It's it's freaking it's horrifying.
yeah.
So it's a nightmare. When you think about it that way, they made it that easy. You tell them who you would like to ransom,
Yep.
and they do it. They can do it for you. So I know you have to go, but yeah, that's a whole nother subject. But yes, things like that, you don't have to be skilled. You don't wear a hoodie and sunglasses. And these are business people. They do this for a living, most of them,
Oh
and
yeah,
they're
totally.
sophisticated and they have technology. And if they don't, they just call up ransomware company, or they can and say, "Here's what I'd like to do."
Please do it for me. Oh yeah, too
Yeah,
easy, unfortunately.
it's all about money. So yes, you have to go. Thank you very much for
No
being
problem. I apologize for the complete mess up in the beginning.
good.
Technology, I hate the damn stuff sometimes. This would be one of those occasions. All right.
One of those.
You take care. Bloody good talking with you. We'll
Great to
catch up
talk with
again.
you. Excellent. Bye, Chris.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. So that was perfect. And I have questions that other people have sent in that we can go over. I know Charlene asked some good ones, and I have questions that other people sent me, people who could be here or some that couldn't be here tonight. So I'm not sure if people want to hang around and do those, or if we can just answer them over time. But some of them were things like what Charlene was asking and what Chris was talking about. It's about awareness, and he had a wonderful post on LinkedIn this week that talked about one of the best things we can do as cybersecurity people or tech people. He was saying, just get dressed, make a sign that just says, did you check your password? Do you have multi-factor authentication? All of these things, and just go stand on the street corner and show them to people. And if you're lucky, people will start to internalize this stuff, because we're running out of ways to get people to listen and to appreciate how hard it is on the other end to keep you safe, to keep people safe. And that these things we ask you to do, such as changing your passwords on a schedule, such as creating passwords with certain patterns to them. You want to have symbols and capitals and not all in order and things like that. So we want to, these are things we are telling people, and it would be wonderful if people could just take us at our word a lot of times, but use cases are always great. So some of the use cases Chris gave you, and some of them, of course, he's in Colorado, so not as Canadian as the rest of us, but they sound shocking, but they're absolutely true. Cell phones are very dangerous in the wrong hands, and those examples that he gave you of people, somebody would phone them and say, I'm the director of the FBI, and yada. Those things actually happen, and we'd like to believe they don't, but they do. They actually happen. So there needs to be a comprehensive program, a comprehensive way of doing things, a launch list. So you need kind of a list of, here's all the things I should be doing, and am I doing them, and are they on a schedule and a list. And we talk about that in a different course that I do as well. But it does become something that you can get into a rhythm. You can have a list of the things that you're doing, the things you need to do on a certain schedule. You need to change your passwords. You need to check your devices. You need to go through and make an inventory of who has access to everything from your VPN. Who has access to your VPN? Just you? Maybe your kids? What about your kids' friends? Has that been given out? When's the last time you changed the password on your router? Sorry, when's the last time you changed the passwords on your router? So we want to make sure we talk about that. Chris talked about things like hot wallets and cold wallets. Those are really dumb names. I agree. You can have an online wallet, which obviously means it's online and everything is stored online. You can have an offline wallet, which means it's on a USB key, or there's various ways to do these different things. When you have a cryptocurrency wallet, you are given, you have two things. You create a password, and you are given what's called a seed phrase, which is a list of words randomly generated. It can be different. Some are 24, some are 16. So you have this list of words. The first thing we do is don't take a screenshot. There are so many platforms and apps in existence today that grab everything that we put on our clipboard. Don't take a screenshot. Get an old-fashioned pen, an old-fashioned piece of paper, and write it down. Then you take that old-fashioned pen and an old-fashioned piece of paper, and you take it to Staples or wherever you'd like, and you laminate it. You laminate a couple copies of it. It doesn't matter. Then you take it and you go down, if you have a safety deposit box, to your bank, and you put it there. Then you put another copy, if you would like, in your wallet. Things like that. Don't ever leave. It's like leaving large amounts of cash. There's a fun fact. Hotel safes are very easy to break into, and they're broken into all the time. If you got something that nobody else is going to want, but you just like to make sure, random people don't get it, you can use them, but hotel safes are not safe. Don't leave passphrases in a hotel safe, or leave them anywhere else. Don't leave them on your computer. They should never be on your computer or your phone or anywhere else. So we want to make sure we're keeping these things, as Chris has said, and as I've always said, this is a journey, and things always go in cycles. So everything was kept online, and we have LastPass or other password managers. When we come around to things as valuable as a seed phrase for your crypto wallet, now that cycle starts to go around again, and that is stored offline. So we need to store that in hard copy. And you need to make sure that your password is hard to remember. You want to make it as complex as you can, and reasonably remember it. Write it down with your seed phrase if you like, so that you've always got it in that laminated copy. And do remember, if you have a wallet that's stored online, say a MetaMask wallet or something like that, or if you have an offline wallet, keep in mind, if you lose your passphrase, you're done. Or your password. If you don't have a password or passphrase, they're asking, the web page is asking you for something and you can't do it. You want to open your wallet and it won't open without one of those. There's nothing that we can magically do to make that better. Now you can, as Chris said, if you have the equivalent of $8 million US in a cryptocurrency wallet, you have some money for good security people, and you have some disposable income to do some things and get it back. So they did what they could. Not everybody has money to launch a full-scale recovery assault on this and get boots on the ground and start knocking on actual people's doors and finding these people. If you have that kind of money, we do. Most of us don't. And for the most part, that kind of money is not recoverable. And I'm assuming if those cyber criminals had been a little smarter, it wouldn't have been recoverable there either. The way we would track someone like that is because there's a difference between privacy and anonymity. On the blockchain, your name is not emblazoned on those blocks that said, I buy this cryptocurrency. But those patterns are always there. If there is... you've got the man's hotel room, they go in, they take the pass key, they go back to wherever it is, the cyber criminals, wherever it is they are stationed or living, and then they start creating these transactions. IP and internet traffic is trackable, so you can track where big spikes are happening, just like you could track where big spikes of hydro and things like that are happening, water usage, hydro usage. Well, broadband usage is trackable. You can also follow where things are going back and forth if there's a lot of broadband usage. So there are ways we can track. And Lord help us, we hope that the cyber criminals are not smart enough to get around that as well. But to get around that, please don't store your seed phrases anywhere, your passwords anywhere. Then we talk about multi-factor authentication. As I was using that example, it is very easy to hacking passwords for cyber criminals to get people's passwords. That's not even that's not one of the toughest things they do in a day. So if I have a password that isn't mine and I want to sign into an account, well, I can do that. I can sign into that account, but do I have two-factor authentication? Well, maybe I break into your account, your email, or whatever it is, your email, Facebook, something like that, and I just go in and say, well, I would like to reset the password, please. And depending on what you have chosen to be able to reset your password, maybe it's just a security question that I can easily guess, and maybe I easily guess it, or something like that. So getting in and getting access, even getting past those kinds of password reset things, those are not as hard as they should be. Once we get in, if there's a two-factor authentication, that if it has to phone your phone and give you a code, that's a huge block for a hacker, for a cyber criminal. So we want to make sure that we put those on, even if we're not thinking, well, there's enough money in that account that, or anybody's going to want my Twitter account. When they do grab it, it's darn inconvenient. And what we're doing is making it harder for them. We're not trying to, excuse me, sorry. Even if you don't think you need it because it makes it harder for somebody else to steal your credentials. As soon as I steal your password, then I put a new password on, and as soon as I do that, whatever application it is will start asking me, what kind of multi-factor authentication would you like? Would you like this a code sent to your phone? Would you like a code sent to your email? Well, I'm going to say yes to both of those. And now, anytime you go in to change your password, it's going to send me a code or send my email a code, and I'm just going to ignore it. And you're not going to be able to get access to your Twitter account and things like that again. So we talked about the wallets, the hot, the cold ones. We're talking about, there's a growing list of crypto scams out there. So mining platforms, things like that, be very careful. And NFTs, people are now buying collectibles that now have a digital online asset. You might have the actual physical asset in your house if it's a painting. Then you also have this digital asset, which must be taken care of if you want it to be covered in case something goes wrong. So there's things like the cybersecurity insurance, which means that you are following certain protocols. So if something is breached, you can say, yes, I did A, B, and C, and then you can be covered. And then there is also the extra security, and it's becoming more important. The more assets we have on our digital devices, the more important it becomes to take that bubble that we were saying, hey, from my device to my router might be really safe. And that means I'm not getting any kind of malware in here, but it doesn't mean that people on the outside can't tell what kind of activity is going on and whether or not I'm worth the risk and someone they would like to try and breach. So that will be it for today. And I'm going to take a lot of the other questions that I had from the people that are going to watch the recording of this. And I'll probably just answer some of those online or on the gamification platform, something like that.